We are in the midst of crisis. Crisis of belief, of possibilities, of inequalities, and of life itself. We are in the midst of hate, tears, and chaos. But in the midst of hate, we find within us an invincible love. In the midst of tears, we find within us an invincible smile. In the midst of chaos, we find within us an invincible calm. We are slow, but realize through it all that in the midst of winter, we find within us an invincible summer and an unbridled spring. No matter how hard the world pushes against us, within us there is something stronger, something better, pushing right back. We now find ourselves at the shore looking out at the seemingly boundless horizon. We sense a sea change. We smell it, we taste it, we hear it, we feel it, we see it. How do we orient ourselves amidst these sensations? How do we face that timeless, undulating and lively sea? How do we live? Why do we live? When do we live? What do we live for? But a life is everywhere, in all the moments, an immanent life carrying with it the events and singularities. A life coexists with the accidents of the life that corresponds to it, but they are neither grouped nor divided in the same way. We say here a life, instead of the life or my identity. A life is always in the making. Art is always already a life in the making. Art can and should produce intense encounters that enables all to work with resistance, the contradictions and illicit communication, through indirect ways of expression, expressing that which we are not capable of merely talking about. Art can give expression to problems and provocations and potentially help to reconfigure our connections, how we relate to experiences, events and encounters. Art may give us new possibilities. Art must not aim at solving problems. Art acknowledges through its thinking that life itself, as problematic by its very nature, can give rise to ways of living with them. This way of thinking embraces the ever-immanent present and gives a room for hope in the future in these difficult and uncertain times. Art are relational sensations connected in materials. Through effect and affect, artworks hit upon something singular, yet impersonal in our bodies and brains. Irreducible, unnameable, but irrefutable. We must rethink knowledge. We must cast off knowledge and embrace thinking. We must resist measuring impact and embrace the forever oscillation of effect and effect. We must resist dogma. We must resist rules. We must resist power. We must resist morality. We must embrace ethics. What are we capable of? What are we all capable of becoming? We must rethink we. We must believe in the world as it is. In doing so, believe in our capacity of becoming, of living a true immanent life. We want here to recognize the true movement of art. Its breathing, pulsating, beating, alive. In this period of change, the role of the artist can only be that of the revolutionary. It is our duty to destroy the last remnants of an empty, tired aesthetic and arouse the vital and lively creative instincts slumbering. The art we demand is the art of a revolutionary period, a demanding sea change that parts ways with the hate, tears, and chaos, and embraces the unbridled spring. This is the time and place for the rebellious spirit, the petty, the amoral, the apathic, the nihilistic. Be off with you. We call for socially engaged art. We call for us all to abandon the dangerous claim that art can exist for art's sake, or that the artist can remain remote from the historic conflicts in which we must and always already take sides. We call upon art to break with bourgeois ideas which seek to conceal the violence and fraud, the corruption and decay of the mind, of the society, of the world, and of an immanent life. We urge artists to forge a new art that shall be a sharpened weapon in the battle for spring. Against the isolated genius, we call for social practice. Against the binaries that plague our world, we call for inclusion. Against traditions and slumbering, we call for radical imagination. Against the violent and parasitic status quo, we call for change. An art capable of embracing dissensus, an art capable of institutional unshackling, an art capable of being made for and by us. A revolution in art capable of embracing the mental, the social, and the environmental, embracing a life. To those whom still pretend to not understand, whom refuse to believe in the world as it is, whom refuse to acknowledge the always, already relationality of life, we say with love, a smile, with calm but irreducible scorn, we, of whom you believe yourselves to be the judges presiding over the winter, the spring will come, and with it an invincible summer. We welcome the tide, the waves, the sea. Let us celebrate this sea change. Let us chant and cheer as it arrives. In order to extend the possible, it is necessary to proclaim and desire the impossible, because there is no resistance if we do not allow ourselves to imagine any difference possible, because there is no resistance if we do not allow ourselves to imagine a world that can be different in any way at all. We must celebrate the unsung heroes and cult figures that roam in the urban oasis. We must proclaim death to expertise and proficiency, and proclaim anyone who finds that there is in life at least one thing to fight for, an expert of his own. What will this future hold in store for us? Will this future be aesthetic? Can the future serve to the idea of an inclusive society? We should give space to people to develop their talents, allowing them to express their instinctual feelings without censorship, and introducing anyone outside, anyone brave enough to listen and rejoice with their inner world. Because everyone is beautiful today. My God, everyone. Even I am word a new spring. We ought not to feed into one thing, but rather unite and combine different disciplines and different worlds. We must embrace ambiguity, vagueness, and believe in the coincidence of research. Because we don't know what we're gonna find, because we don't know what we're doing, because we are all blind and have nowhere to go. only by a connection with the absurd, by love of absolute uselessness, loving something which does not have substance, but which simulates an illusion of life. We live because the mountains do not laugh, and the worms do not sing.